Blessings to you on this 27th day of Lent, Monday, where we find ourselves back in Traumatic Triumph, our Lenten devotional. And today's devotional is called Feeling Our Way. So today's recentering activity, you know what, I forgot to grab my glass with me. So if you've got a beverage, what is suggested here is drinking a glass of cold water, because if you drink a glass of cold water consumed steadily, it can help you as you finish to regulate your breathing. And if a hot beverage is more your style, maybe you've got a cup of coffee or tea with you. There are numerous studies on the benefits of even just kind of cupping your hands around that warm mug and just taking a moment to center yourself. So whether it's a glass of cold water or your hot beverage that you are consuming, I would encourage you to take a moment to recenter and just pause and reflect on the goodness of this day. Now, Feeling Our Way is the title of our devotional today, and I'll be reading from Isaiah chapter 59, verses 9 through 19. So justice is far from us, and righteousness does not reach us. We look for light, but all is darkness, for brightness, but we walk in deep shadows. Like the blind, we grope along the wall, feeling our way, like people without eyes. At midday, we tremble as if it were twilight. Among the strong, we are like the dead. We all growl like bears. We moan mournfully like doves. We look for justice, but find none, for deliverance, but it is far away. For our offenses are many in your sight, and our sins testify against us. Our offenses are ever with us, and we acknowledge our iniquities, rebellion, and treachery against the Lord, turning our backs on God, inciting revolt and oppression, uttering lies our hearts have conceived. So justice is driven back, and righteousness stands at a distance. Truth has stumbled in the streets. Honesty cannot enter. Truth is nowhere to be found, and whoever shuns evil becomes a prey. The Lord looked and was displeased that there was no justice. He saw that there was no one. He was appalled that there was no one to intervene. So his own arm achieved salvation for him, and his own righteousness sustained him. He put on righteousness as a breastplate, and the helmet of salvation on his head. He put on garments of vengeance and wrapped himself in zeal as a cloak. According to what they have done, so he will repay wrath to his enemies and retribution to his foes. He will repay the islands their due. From the west, people will fear the name of the Lord, and from the rising of the sun, they will revere his glory. For he will come like a pent-up flood that the breath of the Lord drives along. You know, I've always been moved by the words of Samuel Shoemaker, one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. In his poem, I Stand by the Door, which he wrote as an apologia for his life, a personal reflection on his life's purpose, and why he felt so compelled to work with those that so many had written off as irredeemable and lost. You know, the opening lines are as follows. I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There is no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside, and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is, and all that so many ever find is only a wall where the door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind men with outstretched groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door, yet they never find it. So I stand by the door. The most tremendous thing in the world is for men to find that door, the door to God. The most important thing that any man can do is to take hold of one of those blind, groping hands and put it on the latch. the latch that only clicks and opens to the man's own touch. Well, I am struck by the similarity in the imagery used by both the prophet Isaiah in the passage today and the words of Samuel Shoemaker. I'm sure that some level that was intentional by Mr. Shoemaker. The images of those rendered spiritually blind and groping through life. For Shoemaker, his heart was for those who had turned to alcohol and found themselves enslaved by it. Our compassionate God seeks you and I out, showing us the door, and then directs us to help others. Now, I am driven to help children, youth, and families find healing and wholeness that comes from addressing their trauma and finding the supports that they need. When the Spirit leads, I find joy in helping them connect with God through healthy relationships with Jesus and the church as well. Perhaps you have a similar passion. You know, those lost in sin are stumbling through life, regardless of how good they look doing it. We can sometimes fool ourselves into buying the lie that children, men, and women don't need to be reconciled to God in Jesus Christ to be happy, fulfilled, and at rest. Isaiah blows this fantasy out of the water. The individual who does not have a relationship with God is not at peace, and this affects their ability to be at peace with others. We do our fellow human beings no service to ignore the importance of things like justice and care for one another. When there is no justice and the people are only concerned for themselves, society breaks down. Each person seeks to define their own reality and espouse their own truth, and as a result, community life becomes fragmented. Meanwhile, God is looking for those who recognize God's truth, God's sense of justice, and God's priorities for our community. In Isaiah's vision, God is appalled that there is no one that can be found to intervene, no one that wanted to step up and make a case for justice. Perhaps God is calling you, even now, to fight for others, to seek justice, and to place the hands of those who are stumbling through life on the latch, to be there to help them find the door to God and make their way through it. Take some time to look around your community today at the needs that are going unmet and to look out for those who are calling for help. Remember, someone showed us, you and I, the way. Now God is asking us to help others. Other passages for contemplation today are Psalm 146 and Acts chapter 9, verses 1 through 20. May God bless you. I'll see you here tomorrow.